Do you know the gum wall at Pike Place Market?
Oh yeah, where you guys are always putting up art?
Yeah, so in 2019, I had this warehouse job at nights, and I would head down there after the shift. So a lot of times I get there at like 1 or 2 in the morning. This one night I'm down there, and it gets to be like close to 2 in the morning, and the bars are letting out. There's a little bar in Post Alley called the Alibi Room, and this drunk guy stumbles out. He sees me, and he has a group of people with him. He's berating them. He's just like loud and boisterous. He's like, seems really friendly, but loud, boisterous, whatever. He sees me. He's like, hey, man, do you have any ghost stories?
Ghost stories?
I tell him, oh, have you heard of like the stick people, on the Native American burial grounds?
Stick people? What the fuck is that?
There's supposed to be these little people that protect Native American burial grounds. My ex-girlfriend lived on the Muckleshoot reservation, right next to the graveyard. She said she saw him all the time. And there was this girl that I worked with at this coffee shop that said the same thing. Yeah, she lived down in the Auburn Valley below the Muckleshoot reservation. And she said that her and a bunch of high school kids would always go there at night and see these stick people. It's pretty terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it's scary, huh? I mean, I've never seen them. I just heard about them.
Just sounds, yeah, it's just creepy.
So this dude's ears totally perk up, and he's like, can I interview you for my podcast? He tells me that he's from New Orleans. He has a podcast about paranormal activity stuff.
Oh, crazy.
So he starts asking me questions about ghosts while I'm pasting up artwork. I have one of those extender poles, so I'm pasting up stuff really high. It's really obvious what I'm doing.
So this guy's interviewing you?
Yeah, kind of. He keeps saying, what's all this weird stuff around here? And I think he's referencing what I'm pasting up. But he quickly launches into this story about him and his buddies that are all ghost hunter type people coming up here from New Orleans together.
Ghost hunters do seem more legitimate in a pack.
Yeah, definitely. So they're packed out, and he's telling me that he went out to Mason Lake in Mason County because it's notoriously haunted. I can't remember why he said it was, but he kind of described the story like the Blair Witch Project. Him and his buddies went out there and they stayed at a cabin and they each started going crazy. And even in Post Alley, he said that like he hadn't contacted any of his buddies. They were all separated. He hadn't seen them since that cabin.
What the fuck? Who are these people that you run into?
So, yeah, I mean, I told this guy, there's some haunted parts of the Pike Place Market. Go ask one of the security guards. But he just was like really attached to me.
It's just funny.
Here's the best part. He comes back down, and he's like, hey, you know those weird things I was talking about? You're the one putting them up. I've been standing here talking shit about your artwork, and you didn't even say anything about it.
He was talking
and I just
shit
said,
about
like,
your
oh,
artwork.
yeah, well, I mean, it's not for everybody.
Sounds like it definitely wasn't for him.
Yeah, he has ghosts on the brain. But I did have relatives that lived in Mason County at the time, so I knew what this guy was talking about. I knew the area. I could visualize it.
So you knew where he was talking about.
The story that guy was telling me just stuck with me. I mean, at one point he was telling me that everybody felt like they were getting choked or suffocated.
Yikes.
I don't know why it stuck with me. He said when it attached to him, he felt like it was an entity trying to suffocate him.
Oh, dude, stop talking about this. I'm creeped out.
Okay, so that stuck with me, and it's weird that this memory was so elusive, but it came back to me that I stayed in a cabin on Mason Lake one New Year's Eve. I think it might have even been 2018. It wasn't that long before I talked to this guy. I just didn't realize that the cabin was on Mason Lake in Mason County. And here's where the elusive memory is at. I stayed out there. It was my buddy's girlfriend's family's cabin. I stay out there. We're drinking at the fire pit all night. I remember at one point that night, feelings of dread started washing over me, and they started getting stronger and stronger, like something was closing in. I don't even remember this part, but I sent a series of texts to my girlfriend before I went to bed saying that I felt like I was going to die and something was happening, and I didn't remember any of this until she told me later. I mean, I was drinking, but it was just beers. I was nowhere close to being blacked out, which I've been blacked out maybe 3 times in my life. I woke up like starkly early in the morning, just like a flash. I was awake. It was like 5 a.m. and it was just uncomfortable and I mean something beyond just the feeling from the beers. I could feel a lump in the back of my throat that felt like phlegm, kind of. So I went into the bathroom and I tried to cough it up and spit it in the sink. It turned out it was my uvula. It had gotten totally swollen and was super long. It was like stretched down my throat. And I don't know what it was in that moment. I just felt like, dude, I don't know if I'm gonna die or what. This is just still swelling up, but I don't know. I was still calm and I just laid down. I kind of just relied on my little squirrel sense of invincibility to drag me through. But I got up at one point and I went out on the back deck. I was trying to sip on some coffee. And I remember puking. Like, I hardly ever puke. But I puked and it was a release. It was an absolutely beautiful projectile vomit. And it was mostly just liquid like water, so it didn't even damage anything. It was pretty perfect. All I can think of now was right when I was falling asleep and that weird feeling of creeping death. I can't even describe it, it's just creeping death when I was texting my girlfriend. Like, that is exactly what that guy was talking about, Post Alley. I'm gonna be honest, it makes my skin crawl just thinking about it.